Oh, so you get to talk first, or am I talking first?
No, you talk first.
Oh, I talk first. Okay, well, this is...
Yeah, you're the main man.
Oh, I don't know. You're the main man.
No, you the man.
You the man. Thank you, Tessa. This is Jay Harding, author of Ubers, the sickest, most disgusting book out there. Even comes with a warning label. I am co-hosting with some unknown entity on the other end of my line our second episode of Dark Wispers.
What I'm striving for today is to sound awake to begin with, so I'm going to try and make myself sound really perky with everything I say, because I noticed last week with the whole, like, when we started the podcast, I was just like, well, to be honest with you, I was asleep. I'd like literally woken up and I was like, I fumbled on Skype and just like managed to answer the call. That sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? I managed to answer the call.
And that was Lee Taylor talking. And this half hour is sponsored by the Natural Condom Company. Go get some sheep guts, guys. Don't spend your money on Trojans.
Actually, one of the first condoms that was made, it was like in the 1400s or something, and it was made out of pig intestines. So that's quite interesting for you. I mean, that comes down to, like, if you're really, really hungry, what do you do? Do you eat the pig intestines, or do you save it for a night of good loving?
Yes, and yes.
You use it as a condom, and then when you're done with it, you don't throw it away. You eat it.
That brings us right to our next subject. Having had 7 children, and more than half of those were boys, there comes a point in every young man's life when he discovers this strange beast between his legs. The smell in the room changes.
Not just the smell, the atmosphere.
The whole atmosphere. It's like Venus. You know, it's covered in a poisonous cloud. I've one son who I'm not going to name unless I get paid to name it. I actually had to take him to the doctor's office, and it's funny because I knew the doctor and I had set the doctor up. The doctor knew what this was all about. He had pleasured himself until he became chapped, and so I had to take him to the doctor's because he could barely walk. And I wish I could have taped that. I wish I could have taped that because it was just so funny.
Maybe like the walk of shame to the doctors, yeah, but the actual act itself, it would have been frantic and horrible.
And the fact that Dad brought him in and he's in the exam room and the doctor's like, well, let's take a look at it. You know, he was completely mortified, and I don't think I've ever had. Well, I have had a few times that have been funnier in my life, but it's hard to think of now.
Most people, when they have their first encounter with the opposite sex, with me, it was wood porn. I was out in the woods by my house, where I used to live in Bristol, and we were like out building a den one day or whatever, and we stumbled across this this ancient artifact. Inside this relic was obviously lots of skin pictures.
I got my start with lingerie in a catalog, and you know, looking at first it was the cleavage, you know, and then somehow I got my hand on a picture of the woman that was Mary Magdalene in Jesus Christ Superstar. But it wasn't porn. It was just like, it was almost porn. And she actually had armpit hair. I'll never forget that. And it just destroyed me. I mean, I was totally in love with the bohemian lifestyle after that.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's the holy, I don't want to call it a relic, but it was a holy item of, great secrecy. You know, I actually had a place. I didn't want to get caught with it in my house. I actually found a place in the little crawl space under the house and buried it under some bricks. You know, not knowing, of course, that the next time it rained, it was going to get destroyed.
That was some really forward thinking. Apart from the whole taking it to your house thing. when we stumbled across the magazine or whatever, what we did was just like left it in the same place in which we found it, in the hopes that someday maybe our children, when they had grown up, would be stumbling through the woods one day and find us out of that. It's like Jumanji.
Now, I'm exposed to all kinds of different types of men in their stages of boyhood, because I've played Dungeons and Dragons my entire life, even from when it first came out, Gary Gygax's first edition. I've loved role-playing games, and so even as recently as last year, I've gone to people's houses and played Dungeons and Dragons. And Dungeons and Dragons happens to be one of those things that man boys like to do, and there's something about going to a 35-year-old man's trailer, and the first thing that strikes you is the smell of. I think you mentioned it earlier off
stale sweat,
off camera. The stale sweat
and broken dreams,
and the broken dreams, and the dead sperm angels flying around everywhere, and
floating.
And then there's the toilet paper sculptures in the corner, and all kinds of plastic bags full of I can only imagine what been uncollected, and and let me tell you, you don't want to look up at the ceiling,
No, I know.
And you don't want to touch anything, and the only thing worse is their bathroom. Have you ever gone into someone's house like that, and their bathroom is just like the worst place in the whole house?
It's not really a good idea. If you happen to find yourself in someone else's bachelor pad, and you're in their bathroom, if they have OCD, usually it's pretty safe. I mean, the house is going to smell of bleach, which is fine. I mean, he could just be a serial killer, but that's nothing to worry about. But if you stumble into the bathroom and they're not, like, they don't have OCD, and then you have to keep an eye out for any kind of loose hair that could be lying around, because that's usually an indication of where they've been at the time and what they could have possibly touched. It's like, if you have like one of those, like the CDC could like set up quarantine in the home, and they'll be like, right, well here you can see, this is where the infection spread. If you actually use the black light, it would be undecipherable from like a murder scene, with gore splattered all over the place. That's when you know you need to get out of there. It's not.
Well, I don't know. Well, that type of person, I would immediately want to go out and get them a dog.
No, why a dog? What did the dog do to him?
Because a dog will eat the evidence, and the next time you go there, there will be less of a mess. Dogs are basically scavengers. When I got my cat, the first thing I got was a dog. The dog keeps the kitty litter clean.
What you need to do, if you're in a situation where you're like with some sort of, let's say, a certain type of male, you don't need to get them one dog, you need to get them 2 male dogs, and that way, whenever they think about doing anything, every single time they consider touching themselves, they'll just have the disapproving look from these 2 dogs as they watch them just like closely, and it might give them a pause for thought. If he hasn't fed them in time or whatever, then we're like, you know what, that looks like quite a tasty treat.
That's crossed my mind a few times, but actually, yeah, cats don't even look at you twice. They're like, oh my God, you're disgusting. They'll walk out of the room. But dogs are like, oh, right.
Yeah, I don't get why cats can seem so judgmental when half the time you catch them, they're cleaning themselves rather furiously,
Oh, I know, and they do it like right in front of you. They spread their legs they're like, hey, look what I can do. Look right here. Exactly.
Every single time I walk in and I catch we've got a little male kitten at the moment. He's a ginger Tom called Applejack. And every single time I catch him cleaning himself furiously, it looks like he's trying to play a cello. where he's just got like one leg hung up in the air, and his head's going backwards and forwards down between his legs. And every time I look at it, all I can hear is like some sort of concerto being played, like dun 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 dun, like something out of like Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility, you know. I mean, I'm just expecting these notes to come forth. But in fact, I'm never going to hear those kind of notes while a cat's playing with itself. All I'm going to hear is possibly a meow. You know, like, there you go. And the deed is done.
Well, now I'm going to tell this. I'm going to tell my story, my cat story, and then we're going to move on because I really think that we've denigrated down to a point where most of our listeners are going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they went there." But I have to tell you, did I tell you this story about my cat? Were you there when I had when Ubers released during the release party? Were you one of the people that I was Skyping with?
No, actually.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll tell you the story. Stop me if you've heard it. If not, then I'll put it in posterity. I had when I lived in Michigan, I had this beautiful female cat. Her name was Annie, and I really couldn't afford to get her fixed. But whenever she went into heat, she just was. She made all these horrible noises, and it would go on for days. And a friend of mine, also a Dungeons and Dragons freak, one of those man boys that have their own cage. He said, "Look, man," he says, "I breed cats." He said, "Now, what you need to do with a female cat, if you don't want to have her in the heat very long, as soon as she acts like she's going in the heat," he said, "you get something like a crochet hook, and you use the non-hook end and insert it into her vulva, and then twist it." He said that will drop the eggs, and she'll instantly stop being in heat. And he said, and that's, the next best thing to being fixed. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a try. So the next time Annie went in the heat, I grabbed her and I grabbed her by the nape of the neck. She immediately presented herself to me, and I took the crochet hook and I inserted it, and it was a little bit more than just a twist, but I wanted to make sure that I dropped that egg really good. And as soon as it was over, she was rolling all over the floor. She took a cigarette and started smoking it, and started following me around everywhere.
Not just
everywhere.
Yes. You'd wake up and you'd find a crochet hook lying on your bedstand.
Right. And she became a cat nymph. I mean, she did. I had to start carrying the crochet hook with me everywhere. And my friend's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, you're now the alpha male," and this became and if I didn't please her, I'd lock myself into another room. She would literally try to claw her way through the door. I mean, I actually had pieces of carpet between underneath the doors that was completely destroyed because she was trying to get to me. Well, and I was sleeping in a waterbed at the time, and I couldn't have a cat in there. So at nighttime, she would just claw and cry and cry. I'd be like, shit, and I'd go out and I'd hook her, and then, and then she'd roll around, and then she'd be fine for a few hours, and I'd get some sleep. But my kids started calling me Cat Man Do. They'd invite their friends over and like, look what Dad can do.
Yeah. That's something that you wanted to be like, wow, how did you teach your cat how to do that? They're like, do you really want to know? Seriously, do you really want to know?
One of my sons thought, she was my only female cat, but she wasn't my only cat. I had a couple of males, and she wouldn't even let them get close to her when she went in the heat. She'd like claw their brains out, She'd be like, no, I belong to him. And my one son thought that he was like 10 or 11. That was the same one that when he found himself, he like masturbated himself to rawness. That may have been somehow sickly tied to this thing, but he thought that he would do, the duty one time, and so he grabbed one of the male cats and tried to put the crochet hook in the male cat's butt, and I think we ended up taking him to the doctor because the cat just tore his ass up.
Dear God.
From that point on, I was known as Catmandu. When my little Annie finally died, I buried her with a crochet hook, and I know that 1,000 years from now, when archaeologists find it, they'll go, "Oh, this cat was revered. It was probably a deity because look, it had its staff with it,
Yeah. This is one of the only examples of a feline being able to use tools.
But anyway, that's my cat story. So,
right. I honestly didn't think when you're going to start the story that it was going to be along the lines of like finger popping a cat. I was like, what the hell? Jesus Christ! Wow.
So now you know where I get my inspiration for Ubers.
Yeah, I thought you were going to teach me like a really handy cross stitch. Not that. Yeah. I'm never going to use that. That's not going to happen.
But it's the visual though. I love telling that story because it's so depraved. And every cat I've had ever since just loves me. My reputation.
Yeah, the word spread. They're like, if you're lucky, one day on a lonely night, he'll get out his crochet needle. Catmandu will come back to town, and that's it. There's like a fable. You're like a cat fairy tale now, just being passed around.
If you go to YouTube and type in my name, J.T. Harding, you'll find some cat videos that I've made. Not crocheting type. But you'll see some cat videos that I've made, and honestly, they're not bad at all. Or YouTube would reject it, but
they know what they're saying. They're just like, oh look, that cat's stuck on a stick. The poor thing.
But you'll notice that in all my cat videos, it's directed by Catmandu. So, and now you'll know the secret behind the Catmandu.
Crikey. Right. Anyway, so just before we move off this rather interesting topic, I had a thought occurred to me. Like, I've known a couple of people that have been into the Dungeons and Dragons, obviously yourself included, and I was just wondering, do you reckon there's ever been a stage, or there's ever going to be a stage in humanity where it's actually going to matter? Where someone's going to be like, I'm a level 12 dungeon master, and people are just going to stop and be like, holy shit, that guy's awesome. Or are they just going to be like, just as it is now, where it's like, I'm a level 12 dungeon master, it's like, great, I can still punch you in the face, what's your point? What are you going to do? Throw a dice at me?
Well, that very well may be the case someday, and I think that all the players of role-playing games kind of hope that happens, that there will be an apocalypse, and when the dust settles, the dungeon masters will rule the world, and that you'll bring your characters out like, I'm a 23rd level thief, and I've really got some mad skills, and you can certainly use me, in the new world.
You say that though, but I mean, what part of the psychological aspects why some of the, let's say, participants find it so enthralling is because as an RPG, they're in the role, or they're playing the role of another character, but they know, they're more than aware that it's not themselves. They're not necessarily pitching themselves in the role, they're more focused on the role itself. So if they're in a situation where, like, the end of the world came around, and suddenly they get chosen or whatever, and it's like, you have been chosen to wield this claymore, do it wisely, and they're like, yeah, well, I'm about my normal character, the barbarian. This is gonna be easy. But when they're actually put into the roles themselves, as themselves, they might not find it as fulfilling.
Oh, I know. And, a lot of people who don't know about role-playing games, they assume that people actually dress up and they're running around and, I mean, there
No, that's
is,
LARPing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and there's certainly a place for that, but, when a lot of D&Ders now, are military, and they're also college students. That's where you get the majority of D&Ders, are Dungeons and Dragons players. When I was in the Army back in the 1980s, during the birth of Dungeons and Dragons, we had this one guy. His name, and I hope he hears this someday and calls me. His name was Charlie Sedgwick. He was so into the game. He had memorized, I mean, this is where the idiot savant thing comes in. He was the savant and the idiot at the same time. He memorized all the books, all the rules, and he was so good at it that every character he started, even if it started out to be a first level thief or a first level magician or a first level barbarian, or a first level cleric, his character always acted as if it were a 103rd level demigod. I mean, because he knew everything. He knew all the rules, and he would draw these intricate illustrations. Like, this is what my character has, and he has a mirror for just in case he runs across a Medusa, or I've got bubble gum and a stick for this, and here's my thieves' tools. Who cares if I'm not a thief? I might need them someday. He carries like 500 pounds of equipment on, and with his little magic user, and so the rest of us really. This is after about a year of playing with this guy. We started getting tired of it. We're like, holy crap, he's trying to destroy every dungeon we ever had, which is fine. That's what the game's about. But, he wants to dominate, and he's like, no, you can't do that. That's impossible. And, he's destroying the game. He's taking the fun out of it for us. So, we held a conclave. This was in 1984. There were about a dozen dungeon masters on this army post. We held a conclave of dungeon masters, and we decided that what we were going to do is we were going to destroy all his characters. And so every time we went to a dungeon, after a set point, the dungeon master would have something that was stronger than his character that would just totally kill it, irrevocably. You can't be resurrected. You're in a gym in the middle of the earth, or your ashes have been scattered to the four winds, and there's no way you can play anymore. So goodbye. And I remember the very last one, we had all gotten together. It was his main character. He had spelled his name backwards. Charles spelled his backwards is a cell rock. Now, this is disturbing that I remember this at all, but that was his main character, and he had played that one more intently than all the others. And we created a character that was it was a doppelganger, except the exact opposite alignment. And it fought him on a one-to-one duel. And this guy, in this room full of people, trying to
keep his character alive.
Right, trying to role play this character and keep him alive, while at the same time realizing for the first time that he was being set up, he was being assassinated, he was being disbarred from Dungeons and Dragons forever, and he fought, and he was sweating, and he was like rolling around on the floor. Oh, I got away this way. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And it was pathetic. It was pathetic watching him. And Charlie, if you're out there and if you hear this, man, I hope you're still alive. I hope our biggest worry is that you went and hung yourself after that. Sometimes people can get really, really into that, and it taught us all a good lesson. If you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, make sure that your character can kill anything that comes along, just in case you're banned.
I'd be less worried about him killing himself and more worried about Selrak making an appearance at your door one dark stormy night and running you through. Holy hell. That was brutal, dude. You set up this Charlie to be fucking Selrak as the next Randall Flagg. It's not... Holy hell, dude. That was brutal. Killing all his characters like that. Couldn't you have just done like the normal thing, just like beating him up with a bar of soap in a sock? Just give him a bit of a clipping.
But it was Dungeons and Dragons, and it was the military. You had to like man up. Put your big boy pants on and take your lumps. Because this is war.
Christ.
That was. That's my cat story, and that's my Dungeons and Dragons story.
You know that there's going to be rules released one day for Dungeons and Dragons, and he's going to find a loophole to bring back one of his characters, and that's when he's going to come for you. You're going to be sat down like at one of your neighbours' or friend's place or whatever, whether it smells of like stale sweat and semen, that's all dependent. And the door's going to swing open, and standing there is going to be Charlie with Selrak's like items and descriptions or whatever in his hand, and he's just going to slam it down on the table. He's going to make eye contact with you, and he's going to be like, "You're gonna die," and that's it. Out come the dice, and all hell ensues. Really dramatic comeback. And it's like, it's been 30 years. 30 years I've been looking for a way to come back. And it's fine, like, he'll start, like, quoting script or whatever and monologuing to you, and you're going to be like, oh, shit.
That actually sounds like it would make a great screenplay. I could even see, who would star in that? Who would you think would be the greatest, Jim Carrey, I think, would be, like, a great...
Jim Carrey would be a really good unhinged character, but I mean, maybe have like Jim Carrey as 1984 version younger, and then like 30 years later, how badly it's aged him, you could have Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe's pretty scary, and then you've got to have. Now my brain is dead. What's his name? Did you see the movie Blast from the Past with Brendan Fraser?
Yes, I did.
Who was his father?
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken. Yes, you got to have Christopher Walken in there. He'd have to be one of the aging dungeon masters from back then.
Yeah, he could be one of the ones rounding it up or whatever. He could be like, I can't do any good impressions of Christopher Walken, unfortunately. I think what you should really have in there, though, if you're going to do a screenplay of this, is you need Nick Nolte in there, just with his voice, even if he's just like being the narrator, so he can start speaking like this, and he can be talking about his comeback, and you can just like really get in there really gruff. I think that'd be really important.
Or we could just use his name and have those real cheesy Japanese movies that are done in English, and their lips are moving real fast, but they go, "I'm going to get you."
Yeah.
To have Nick Nolte's voice superimposed over Willem Dafoe's or Jim Carrey or someone like that. Who was that? Who was the actor that did Talladega Nights, the main character?
Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell, yeah. Will Ferrell's got to be in it too. Definitely.
Well, he plays a really good asshole, so he could be, in all fairness, he could probably be a really good Charlie or whatever, in the sense that he's the one that has his characters destroyed, and he's like, well, no, it doesn't count. Well, how come? Because I had a force field. He's like, I've seen him in roles like that before, where he's like, gets really funny about it. I think it was Step Brothers. If anyone wants to take up the movie rights, feel free. It's just sitting there.
That's right.
I mean, at the end of the day, the more the story gets spread, the less chance of this guy turning up and murdering Jay. So, Let's get
That's
the word
right.
out there.
Save my life. No, actually, if it did get picked up by New Line Cinema or United or someone like that, and then there's a movie about it, Cell Rock. I know this guy's going to be like 55 years old. He's going to be in the theater because, he's still into D&D everything, and he's going to go, that's me. And it's going to be worse than the Blair Witch. So.
Yeah, I can just see it now, just like a picture of you in the woods, just out of breath, just like zoomed in on your face in night vision, and it's like, I think there's someone out there. All my friends are missing. Just like get some really heavy, hofty breathing going down, and you can just see like a twig snapping in the background, and then you just turn, eyes wide with terror. And standing before you, a skinny nerd. A skinny nerd with a book and like a flashlight, and he's just trying to show out where you were wrong. And he's like, look, this is, see, look, you shouldn't have been able to do that. And it's like, come on, dude, it's been 30 years, let it go.
I've been reading, Joseph Rubus's upcoming new novel called Dracula 1912, and I have to tell you that I am so impressed that I've already taken the stuff that he sent me, put my name on it, and sent it into the copyright office. And hopefully he won't hear this episode of Dark Wispers.
I mean, anything with the words Dracula in 1912, obviously with amongst images of the Titanic, as a fact that it's going to go down well. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? There you go.
That's bad. That's bad. But he has done this so well. He's written in the period of that time in such a way that I wonder if maybe Joseph is not really an immortal, because he's using the English language with the command of the English language that relays somebody twice his age, and I'm instantly jealous and dubious about how he's able to pull this off. It's written so well. I'm only about 40 pages into it right now. I'm already lost in the story. Not that I'm lost, but I'm hopelessly bound into the story.
You're absorbed.
I'm annihilated in the story. I did use the word bound too, I want you to know, just to make you feel good.
Thank you.
But as soon as he gets this thing done and wrapped up and out there, I'm going to be the first one in line to get a copy of it, and I'm going to be all over the place. That's how I ended up getting published. Is that I went on Facebook, and one of the first people I ran across, I don't know how I think it was Cat Lover magazine or something, I don't know. I ran across Joseph Rubus, and I thought, wow, I read some of his stuff early on, and I thought, wow, I like this guy's style, and I liked his politics too, because he's an unapologetic Reaganite, and he's like, line up all the liberals and kill them. And I thought, you go, Joe. And so I became friends with him, and then I found out that he was an author at Firefly and Wisp. And so I thought, what the heck, I think I'll throw on a manuscript there, and then next thing I know, I'm a fellow Firefly. Now, how long have you been with Firefly, Lee?
I don't know. I mean, it was really small to begin with, and obviously it's just been blossoming and growing, and hopefully it will continue to grow, and her business will continue to thrive. And
now, when you wrote Bound,
yes,
was Firefly and Wisp the first place that you came to?
Pretty much. I mean, one of the things that you got to, if you're an aspiring author, you know that you want to get your book read. That's one of the most important things to you. It's like a need. As soon as you finish the book, you're like, right, well, if by finishing the book, you've already accomplished the impossible, because I'm not quite sure what the exact percentage is, but most of the majority that start writing a book will never actually finish writing it. So by doing so, you're already like ahead of the curve. Then when it comes to finding a publisher, you can sometimes, I mean, admittedly, sometimes you can get lucky if you get in with a publishing agent or a literary agent, or but a lot of the publishers, the larger publishers, they won't accept unsolicited manuscripts, which basically means that anything that's not referred to them by an agent. And so you might want to think, okay, well, the smart thing to do then is to send my work to a literary agent. And most of the literary agents, every single time I'm saying literary, I'm saying it differently. I think I must have been dropped in the head as a child. Anyway,
Literally.
yeah, literally. But a lot of the literary agents, they won't accept work from like an unknown, you know. If they're like, right, so what's your experience, you know? It's kind of like a job interview where they're like, well, if you don't know the difference between your asshole and your elbow, we don't want you. Although that's only implying that obviously every single literary agent is from Texas. But
Right. I think they are, though.
Yeah, I think they're bred. They're like on farms.
I think there's one couple. Look, Martha, there's another one. Send them to New York.
So if all the literary agents are like on a branch out in Texas, what about all the D&D players? Where do they come from? What part of the state are they from?
They come from the rectum of Texas.
I thought you were going to say like South Dakota or something. Okay, North Dakota, South Dakota. Anyway,
everything's from Texas. So. You have to go there.
Everything good comes from Texas. That should be the slogan when you're like entering the state. Now entering the state of Texas, everything good comes from here.
But you're right. You raise a good point. I mean, writers who are fresh out of the box have a uphill. It's all about promotion, you know, and there aren't a lot of, you can go on the internet and you can type in, you can search and research and re-research, and find a lot of good, tips and hints and links, and, you can stay busy for 6 months, just getting the information that you need to be able to, promote your book. I was almost overwhelmed by the amount of synopsis and outlines and blurb and query letters and all these things. And you know, I kind of knew that there was going to be some of that, but I didn't realize that every publisher I went to, and I'll tell you right up front, I started out with the big ones. You know, the first thing I did is I went to Barnes and Nobles, and I carried a piece of paper or a notebook and a pen with me, and everybody that they're kind of, you know, like everybody that wrote horror, I found out who their publishers were, and I wrote it down, and I went home and checked it out on the internet, and you know, and most of these places do have submission guidelines, but there's such a it's like an insider group. It's
exactly.
You can only submit them one at a time, and you have to give us 6 months to reply to you, and you know, and I didn't really think that I had all the time in the world to do that. Eventually started going to websites that gave me entire lists of publishers, and you know, I thought about the agent thing, but you're right. At the same time, they're saying, what experience do you have? What do you mean experience do I have? Does that mean that I have to not need an agent to get an agent now?
Pretty much.
If I've got experience, then I don't need an agent. But so I just started going. I started going through publishing companies, whether they were top level. I found out quickly that first time published writers really are treated very differently than established authors. And when I say established authors, I don't mean someone that's had 1 or 2 books that were published by an indie publisher. I'm talking about someone who has gotten themselves in the top 100 of the New York Times bestsellers list.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that get cherry picked by these great publishers, and oftentimes they get if an indie publisher somehow lands a deal with someone who's got great talent. Usually, if word gets back to one of the A-list publishing companies, and if they're willing to take a chance, and that's really like a 2% chance, and that's rolling the percentage dice on D&D, then they're going to
buy the rights from the indies. Yeah, the whole atmosphere at Firefly West, it's a family environment. And just like every other family, you have your strange uncles and aunties. And I'm not talking about interfering uncles. I mean, that's not one of the things we have there. But we definitely have a fair share of weirdos. I'm one of them, admittedly. I'm quite happy with being a weirdo.
Does every family have its own Kathmandu?
Oh, God, I hope not. I'm gonna have to get in contact with my relatives, asking if any of them have ever taken a crochet hook to a cat in a non-threatening way, in a purely sensual way.
If you take a female cat in heat and you grab her by the scruff of the neck, she's all ready for you. It's delicious.
It's delicious, really.
Yeah,
do you want to carry on?
So anyway, what were you saying? I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right, change the subject. Right. No, what I was saying is that I only actually applied to 3 places with Bound. The first place, I thought, well, it was I don't know where I found the link to, but I found some link to some like English publisher, and I was like, okay, well, one in England could be nice. And so I sent them it, and I was waiting for a response. Then I found another one which was apparently taken on new submissions. I think it was called, I forgot the name of the publisher. If I say the wrong one, I can get in a lot of trouble. But basically I applied to them, and I had a response within a month. And they said, yes, we want to take you on. It's fantastic. We can do brilliant things. And I was like, okay, awesome. And then they were talking about sending across the contract and going through all these details, blah, yada, 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 yada. And at the meantime, I'd also, one of my friends on Facebook, anyway, she told me about Firefly West. And so I said, well, do you mind if I apply for them as well? As you just, applied for them. And she said, yeah, no, go for it. And so I applied for Firefly West. Meanwhile, I was looking at things through this other publishing company. And I did some research on the company, as everyone should do, before signing anything or agreeing to anything. You check about them. Anyway, and there are some people saying that it could possibly be a vanity press, and a vanity press is basically the same as self-publishing, only they keep more of the rights from you, but you still have to pay them. Where it will get it's a vanity press if they ask you for money. If your publisher's asking you for money, that's a vanity press. Where it's basically like, right, well, we think your book's absolutely fantastic. There's not one single spelling error. Can you believe that? Every word's perfect. But just in case, we're going to send that out to some test readers. We're going to need about $300, and we'll pay for them to read through it. I mean, because obviously it's perfect as it is. We just want to make sure that it could be to its best.
And I need to interject and say that I believe that there is a place for that. There are people who, and I know writers who have, they need to have this book in their hands. They need to have this child that they gave birth to, and that they want to make copies and give to family members for Christmas, or hand out to their friends. And it's a very personal thing for them, and they're not interested. They're not interested in getting rich or becoming,
self-publisher.
New York Times bestseller. Right, and so they throw a couple $100 at these places, and they do a fairly good job. I mean, if you look at you pay for what you get. I mean, if you spend $200, if you told somebody, if you go to this website on the publisher's website, they'll have a page for me, and you can buy a book from them. But page is like the book is like $25, you know. And so it's all about the publishing company making money. You know, it's not about the writer making money. But if you're a writer and you just want to have a couple of copies for posterity, for your grandchildren, I would say the best bet would be to find there's a couple of publishing companies or a couple of companies out there that actually let you publish books for free. It's pretty much a hands-on type thing, and they only make the ones that you sell. Have you heard about these before?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, I know there's a site called Lulu.com, in which case you can use it and you can basically upload your book and you can make the cover yourself, and obviously you have to pay X amount, and then you can have them listed on even sites like Amazon or whatever, in which case they're literally made to order, you know? So every single time a purchase comes through, they send it out.
There are actually two places that I'm thinking about. One is called Blurb, and the other one is called CreateSpace. CreateSpace it was made by Amazon, and it's actually I don't know what to call it. It's not even a vanity press. You go in, you have to have your manuscript in a certain format, hopefully in a PDF. You create your own cover. You fill out all the paperwork. They even give you an ISBN, and they assign it to your book. And you make it, and they approve it, and you get a proof copy mailed to you. You do pay for it, but it's like $5. You look at it, make sure everything's fine, and if everything's fine, you can go out there on your own and you can promote it as much as you want, and you make as much money as you want to make off of it. I mean, they're going to get the lion's share of each copy, but if you sell it for if you sell the average novel for like $14, you make like $1.50 off of everyone. But the bad thing about that is you don't have a lot of people that get into this don't have the experience. They don't know all the things that they have to do to promote their books. And let me tell you, man, 90% of I mean, you think it's hard writing a book? It's 10 times harder marketing a book, you know. And I admire anybody that can market their stories really well.
I mean, yeah, but when it comes to marketing the story itself, unfortunately, there's a lot of authors that have a certain disposition. You've decided that you're going to go for an indie publisher, or you've decided that you're going to go with self-publishing, and you're pissed off because no one's buying your book, but you haven't actually done any marketing yourself. All you've done is been like, yeah, well, you know, my book should speak for itself. You are the voice. You have to tell people about it. You have to get people interested. Remove your head from your butt and just get out there and talk to people, you know. Just be like, you know, if you like this book, you might like this book. Make a comparison, although there's some people that will be like, yes, well, I just wrote it, and if I was to compare myself to an author, I would say I'm just like Stephen King. I'm just like, oh, brilliant, what's your book about? Well, it's like Watership Down, only none of the rabbits die, right? Yes. Okay, alright, I understand, absolutely. Stephen King. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and they wonder why they don't get published. But hey, truth is truth.
I can't seem to hold down a serious relationship. Is it because you're too obsessed with yourself? Possibly.
Yeah, no. Generally, people like that, they don't even realize that they're doing it themselves. You know, I don't know why girls never come back to my house twice. Does my house smell like something? Yes. You know.
Does your house smell? Let me ask you one thing. Have you squeegeed your windows recently?
Is your dog well fed?
Yeah, and not on cum-covered tissues.
Right. Does your cat wear a necklace with a crochet hook on
Yeah. Does your cat leave you alone when you're at home? It's like, no. Why? Well, last time I brought my girlfriend over, my cat got jealous. And I was like, right, what's wrong? That's Catmandu being a visit or something?
it? Actually, that sounds like another good story.
Oh, I wonder if there's going to be people out there now that are going to listen to this podcast, and the next time their cat's on the heat, there's just going to be a moment where the cat and the person just like make eye contact, and there's like an unspoken message going out. It's just like, yeah, you're going to get it. You know, does the cat feel nervous? Should the cat feel nervous?
The cat's like, oh, thank God. You know.
I'm just grateful that Applejack, our cat is a boy. Otherwise, there might be a moment when like I'll wake up one night and he'll be on the chair next to me, just looking at me while I'm writing, and I'll just be like, this is awkward all of a sudden, you know. Christ.
Oh,
why would you listen to advice from someone that plays Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah. it's like that's like being told how to deal with a cat. It's like the equivalent of like asking that same guy, like, you know what? I'm having a real big problems with my love life at the moment. Could you tell me tips to pick up a girlfriend? You know? And I'd be like, yeah, no, what you need to do is you need to get the necklace of Glamourment or something. And then, oh my God, you know, it's just not going to happen. Actually, to be honest, if your friend's the type of guy I think he is, then chances are if he said I'm having problems attracting a member of the opposite sex, he'd be like, what you need to do is get a crochet hook, and then
you have to get. First thing you do is you get a broom handle, just grab her by the back of the neck, insert it in her vulva, and twist it. It'll drop the egg, and she'll roll around and smoke a cigarette, and she'll be fine.
Yeah, Christ.
But I don't know how we ended up going back to there.
It's nice how it's all connected. Why don't we talk about movies? Movies. Okay. Let's talk about...
You said you only had one book published. What about Hellbound?
Well, Hellbound's about to be published. You know, it hasn't been published yet. Our publisher said that, hey, yeah, I'm definitely going to publish it. It's like, well, you haven't even read what it's about. Why would you agree to publish it? What if I'm, like, writing the next book that should never be read in the light of day? Kind of like the next Twilight book.
No, but I've begun reading Bound, and let me tell you, man, you got some mad talent. And if anyone that's ever read your work, they would say, "Oh yeah, sure, okay, you know, I'll take a crack at the second book," you know. Well, so I can understand why she would do that.
Basically, my book is Marmite. People love it or they hate it. I haven't seen someone saying, yeah, I suppose it was alright. Although if I did, you know, I'd probably slap them. I'm all about the passion, baby. Either you hate something or you love something. There is no in between. There's no room for mediocrity. One of the problems I've had, I say I've had, when people have been trying to read it, they're like, oh my God, what is this? I'm Canadian English. I was born in Canada and I've been raised in England. So in my book, I have English and I have like American Canadian spellings, which is fine. Do you want to know why? Because I am Canadian and I am English. I can do that. I have the ability to write like that. So all of you people that are having problems, like, you know, it's not English. It's not proper English. It's like, well, it is proper English, just at different parts of the world, you know? I want everyone to feel joined in. Some people have overlooked it, and they're like, you know, it's a really good story, or this is fucking weird, what's wrong with the author, he needs to be committed. And I'm fine with that, you know, not the committed bit thing, because honestly, I only like Jell-O so much.
Hey, do you just say if you were locked in the room with Jell-O every day?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that, like, Jell-O is a person. I'm not that.
Oh.
Yeah, if you leave me in a room with that guy Jell-O, that's it. He's having it. I'm gonna get my crochet hook, and he's gonna feel it. I'm gonna have him rolling around the floor smoking cigarettes. Is that how you normally smoke cigarettes? You just like, as soon as you light up, you just lie down and you start rolling around on the floor with a cigarette in your mouth. Well, that's a fire hazard. Kids, if you're gonna smoke, sit in the same space. Have an ashtray.
Don't roll around the floor, please.
Yeah, don't roll around. Don't imitate the cat that's been touched by Catmandu. Be smart. Be safe. This is a complete rewind talking about Bound. I don't know why I've become suddenly serious. I must be bipolar. Anyway, part of the reason why I started writing Bound, and part of the reason why I enjoy Bound myself, it's rather, it kind of sounds like I'm saying I enjoy self-fellatio, but I'm just saying the reason why I like my own work is that it's not the usual. I mean, there's a lot of novels out there that are in my genre, and in it you get the boys being sun swept or like silken hair, frickin' rippling with muscles, yada 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 yada. And the girls, they're all, oh, woe is me, or the girls are having problems choosing between a couple of guys, or the guy's having problems like showing his feelings towards a girl. And in it, they do some sort of, it's one of the oldest stories that has always been used. And I was just so sick of the genre being just redone and rebrandished or
And that's why your protagonist, goes on summer vacation, unintentionally marries a demon, falls into line with the wolf pack, is hunted by witches as well as the government, and they're all trying to use him for their own devices.
Exactly. I'm glad you can read my blurb. But yeah, no. Basically, I didn't want the traditional Romeo meets Juliet, Romeo falls in love with Juliet, Juliet falls in love with Romeo. Instead, I was going to have it. Romeo is a teenager, and as a teenager, he's an idiot, and his mind's normally on other things whilst in an active environment. And Juliet doesn't really need to have time for Romeo when she's got other concerns going on, But
Right.
when you put Romeo and Juliet together, is there chemistry? Yes, but chemistry in the sense that it's almost like a interspecies racism where she doesn't, as a demon, I have the law for my demons, that they feed off emotions, but they can never experience the emotions for themselves. They can only, taste it. I didn't want another of those freaking tales. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be almost masochistic in a way. I mean, you hear about in these tales of emo characters acting emo, doing emo things where it's like, I want to love you, but I can't. Why? Because if I do, I'll only hurt you. Okay. In this situation, it's like, I don't love you, I can't stand you, but I also can't leave you. One of those situations. That's what I wanted. I wanted the character to feel as crazy. I don't know, I just wanted to take the readers on a journey, I guess. I want the readers to experience something new. But the problem with experiencing something new is readers, as much as I love you, can also be kind of like toddlers with food. No, I don't like mushrooms. You haven't tried mushrooms? You might really enjoy mushrooms. No, I don't like mushrooms. Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the problem that not just writers have, but movie producers, anyone that's in the arts, there's that need for something new and fresh, but at the same time, they have to fulfill a need. What's the wave of popular? What's everybody going crazy about now? Oh, it's vampires. Well, let's crank out another vampire thing, but we'll make it to where the vampires have, instead of sucking blood, they suck. Right? No, that's been done too. They suck bark from trees or something, weird.
Right.
And there's always this fight to do something the same but original at the same time, and it's it can get pretty.
Vampires.
Yeah, vegan vampires. It can get kind of crazy. So we're always looking for that thing that makes it different. I think that for you and I don't know about other writers, but for you and I, our lives changed, and I'm speaking for you now. Stop me if I'm not. Our lives changed when we read Jim Butcher's work. I found you can have fun with the character.
Yeah.
You can also make that character a total asshole.
Yeah.
You can also have all kinds of nasty, rotten things happen to them, and don't be afraid to take your protagonist uh, to a dead end street with a monster chasing you and no idea how to get out of it, because there's going to be a way out of it, because you're the god of that book.
Exactly, you're the god of that universe. Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
But what I was going to say in regards to Jim Butcher, that guy is a legend. And if he ever wants to go out for some Jägermeister, call me. Hi, I'm your biggest fan. But, Jim, I want your babies. But
he could use a crochet hook on me if he wanted.
Yeah, and have you rolling around smoking. That'd be awesome. I get to see it now. No, what I was going to say is you're only up to book 5 of Jim Butcher's, aren't you? The Dresden Files.
What's that?
You're only up to Death Masks and the Dresden Files, aren't you?
Which one is the White Knight? Which one was that?
Oh, White Knight. That is, I think that's book 7 or book 6.
That's as far as I got. When he was talking about the Fae.
So you've just been introduced to his dog Mouse.
Yes. The first time he's got his dog.
The little notch-eared puppy.
Yes.
That was a brilliant start to a book, by the way. I thought that was absolutely tremendous. The monkeys throwing phosphorus poo.
But yeah, that's as far as I got. But yeah, I've got the rest of them. There's so many other books to read before I get to it. I really should hang up my crochet hook and start reading more.
I was gonna say pull your finger out and start reading, but I thought no, you went for the crochet hook, so it's okay.
My father had this game that he taught us kids. We would put one finger in our mouth and one up our ass, and then he'd say switch, and we kind of grew up a little bit different than the average family.
Hey, that's fine. Some kids they get taught how to ride a bike. Some kids get taught how to finger pop. It's to each their own.
When he brought us to school in the morning in the car, he would he was kind of a minor celebrity in the radio circles. We traveled all over the country, and he worked in the radio industry back in the 60s and 70s. When he would take us to school, he would put his glasses on crooked and make this really funny face with his mouth and look like he was totally retarded. And it would totally devastate us that, we're being brought to school by some obvious maniac. And all our friends are looking at us, and he was like that. He was crazy, and it was fun. It's fun growing up with a parent that's intelligently insane. I mean, it does things to you. When my sister was like 3 years old, and I fixed a Coke bottle up once full of all kinds of liquids from the refrigerator, and I used food coloring to make it look like Coke, and I gave it to her, and something about the way that liquid shooting out her nostrils in this long arc, it changed my life, and I became. I think that was when Kathmandu was born.
From that point onwards, you're like, right, now I've made my sister cough up liquids out of her nostrils. Next comes the cat.
Yeah, and that was, God, it was such beautiful times.
That's wicked. Unfortunately,
did you have any sisters?
Did I have any sisters? I do still have one sister, and I love her dearly. But unfortunately, we, as children, we never really got on. In the sense
you're not supposed to.
No, exactly. I mean, my sister, she's half my size, and she used to beat me around something chronic. Don't get me wrong, I deserved that. I was such a little. I mean, as an adult, I'm a giant idiot, and I'm quite happy to say so. But as a child, I was a little idiot. You know, I've kind of grown into my own. Well, maybe I was always the same kind of idiot, and now I've grown into it. But I don't know. Yeah, no, I love my sister dearly. She's absolutely brilliant, and I'm so happy for her. But as kids, we did not get on at all.
Well, how old is she now?
My sister is. God, you put me on the spot here now. Now I'm gonna look like a shitty brother. Thanks, Jay. Fuck's sake. No, she's going to be 28 on the 6th of November. My sister's birthday's so close to Guy Fawkes night, is that I'm always like, remember the 5th of November, and then I'm just like, right, okay, but what you should be remembering is your sister's birthday. Now, is it before or after Bonfire Night in the United Kingdom? And I'm just like, Fortunately, Facebook helps out a great deal. I mean, my parents get tired of me like phoning up every year and asking them when my sister's birthday is. When it comes to birthdays, I'm the worst person in the world when it comes to sending out cards. Like, I'll buy a card, I'll write the card, I'll even get a stamp and put it on the card, and then I'll lose the card, and I'll forget about the card, and then I'll find the card after their birthday, and I'll be like, right.
Then you write belated on the back and
yeah, exactly.
Now, what I've done over the years, you know, having 7 kids and having 14 ex-wives or however many, and all those stray cats down the road. What I do is I use a calendar and I put their birthday on the calendar. And every year in January, I take down the old calendar and I copy everybody's birthdays.
What's a calendar? That sounds brilliant. That sounds like fantastic technology.
Yeah. Hey, look, you know how hard it is to find a calendar on the internet? You know, I mean,
it's expensive. I mean, I wanted to get one for my wife, and she was she's a big fan of like the Vampire Diaries with like a certain actor called Ian Somerhalder, and she's like, oh my god, Damon Salvatore. And I'm like, okay, right, I'll tell you. I'm not going to tell you what. I don't know why I use that. Anyway, I was going to get her a calendar of like Ian Somerhalder or as Damon Salvatore, in which case she could look at pictures each month of a different picture of Ian Somerhalder, and she can write down what she needs in the calendar, and she can be happy. And then I saw the price, and I was like, oh, I'm not spending £20 on a calendar. Full stop. When it comes in my phone, so I was like, right, I'm going to buy her a poster instead. It's just one of those things where I didn't tell her about it anyway, so when she got the poster, she was happy. But I was like, well, I was going to get you a calendar, which would have been 12 pictures of them, but I decided not to. It wasn't worth the money.
Does she know, or is she going to find out when she listens to this?
If she listens to this, she's going to find out, and I'll you know, she'll probably be like, yeah, well, you can make me a cup of tea as an apology now. And it's like, okay, well, I was going to make you a cup of tea anyway, but if it counts as an apology as well, then yeah.
If it was only that easy, a cup of tea. If it was something serious, like, oh, by the way, think of something more serious, quick, go. I'm sorry I shagged your sister. You know.
Oh my God! I love my wife, and I love my wife's family. But
you told me, you said you asked Catmandu to come up with something serious.
I was expecting you to say like you killed her cat or something, you know.
No, that's the last thing I would do is say kill a cat. I love cats.
Yeah, apparently too much. Crikey. Anyway, what were we talking about beforehand, before getting distracted? I'm diddly doing again. Hopefully I'm not doing as much heavy breathing this time. I noticed that last time I kind of sounded like I was, you know, I'd just run a marathon, but it's not. I mean, sometimes when you'd hear my heavy breathing, it was just because I was smoking. I wasn't, however, you know, using a crochet stick on myself, rolling around the floor smoking, which is why I was out of breath. I was generally just, you know, inhaling and exhaling.
I didn't even notice the heavy breathing. I don't know. People talked about it, but I don't know anything about that. So.
Yeah, well, at least none of them are like, oh my god, it's really creepy the way you can hear him breathing in your ear, and it's like, right, okay. Maybe next time I'll do like a 5-minute special of just me heavy breathing into the microphone, so they can feel like I'm just breathing down their neck. Dun, 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 dun.
And that'll be the sound bed to Dark Whispers.
Yeah, that's going to be how we start up. Every episode is just heavy breathing for 5 minutes. No talking, no laughing, just heavy breathing. So just as they're about to get paranoid enough to turn it off, then we can start. It's fine.
And every once in a while, hear
Yeah.
in the background.
You can just hear it. Every now and then you hear a meowing in the background, followed by the flick of flint as it lights up a cigarette.
I'm looking forward to seeing the graphics that are going to come with this episode.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say I'm going to be visiting lolcats.
I'm not. I'm glad that I don't have my real name on catster.com. Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about possibly having fans coming to our Facebook page. By the way, we do have a Facebook page now.
Yeah.
For Dark Whispers.
Facebook.com/Dark Whispers.
That's right. Right. DarkWhispers. Is there a dash between dark?
I don't think so, no. But, Whispers, we understand as authors that Whispers is normally spelt WHISPERS. But what it is, it's a play on words, because we're from Firefly and Wisp, so Dark Whispers.
That's right. But having fans come into our Facebook page, and of course, after they like it, it's just as easy as
even if you don't like us and you just want to join the Facebook page to abuse us, feel free.
That's right. And we'd be more than happy to take requests, questions, points of conversation, anything that you've got, any subject you want to bring up. I think that we can allot an amount of time to our fans. And if we don't, then you just get to put up with some more of this dribble, for another week.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, well, it's quite sad, really. I mean, I had like a little notebook where I'd written down like little points to talk about this week. So I thought, it might be nice just to go through and work through the list methodically. But unfortunately, if you do that, I think it's too rigid, so.
It probably, you'll probably, if you move that notebook that you wrote all these things down on, you'll probably find all those birthday cards that you've lost.
Yeah, probably covered in semen. Oh wait, no, I won't say that.
Well, is there anything else you want to talk about, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we should talk about, which we haven't addressed, obviously Joseph hasn't been here this week, and it's because he hates all the people.
That's right. Someone's got to be the hater. Someone's got
to be the hater.
And you blame the guy that's not there. So
exactly. So if the podcast is like atrocious this week and you guys never want to hear it again, that's because Joe isn't here. He wasn't here to keep us on track.
That's right.
To keep us normal.
So that's right. Yeah. See now, Joe, you need to come back next week. And so
we miss you, Joe. We miss you, buddy.
Keep writing, Dracula 1912. You've got to be plagiarizing. I know you do, but I'll talk to you privately about it.
I wonder if he's gonna put like a slogan underneath it, like Dracula 1912. I got that sinking feeling. Something like that.
Isn't there a song? She's got that sinking feeling. Now she's gone.
Wow, that's a really nice voice, Joe. You should try it for the X Factor.
I don't know. I was using the crochet hook while I did that. So.
Well, you were just using it to twiddle yourself to get those extra notes. That's really good.
Do you know how much you have to practice diddling yourself with a crochet hook in your penis before it starts actually not hurting. Months.
It takes hard work. It's like writing. It's a passion.
It's
you
an
have to really
acquired thing.
exactly. You have to commit yourself to the cause.
Exactly.
Crochet 2012. There's I wonder if there's people out there that are going to be like, right, well, I haven't got any crochets, but I've got some knitting needles. So what advice would you give them?
Put a hook in it first, somehow.
Just bend. If you can, try and bend the ends. If not, you can always try and make yourself look like one of those really funky tribal pictures, with people with horns poking through their noses and ears and eyes.
Well, that's right, people with crochet hooks. Now, I can see myself at a book signing 6 months down the road, and people in line with their crochet hooks and permanent markers,
Can you sign my crochet hook? You're gonna have to
Sure.
You're gonna have to, yeah.
Bend over, let me take your temperature first.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have to leave some sort of disclosure agreement upon book signings, which will be I will sign your crochet hooks providing they're new and in the package.
That's right. Yeah, these crochet hooks have not been touched by human hands, Cat hands, yes. Do not smell before signing.
Yeah, crikey. Do not use this back scratcher, will cause venereal disease.
Well, how come I used my crochet hook and I suddenly got cat scratch fever? What's up with that?
Yeah.
I got feline lupus on my back. What's up?
I used to have this moped. It was called a Benelli, and it was snowing this one day. And I was about miles from home. This was before cell phones were huge. And anyway, so my cell phone broke down and I was miles from my home and I had to walk through the country lanes with it freezing cold. It was not pleasant. When you're having to push something as well, it gets to the point where you're like, I'm going to pick up this motorbike and just throw it in the hedge and leave it there. What I ended up doing was parking up on the side under the shelter of a tree, still freezing cold. And I must have sat there and I smoked about 15 cigarettes just trying to heat up my engine. Just trying to find kindling or whatever because it was literally that cold that it wouldn't start. And I finally managed to warm it up enough and I had it running and I managed to get it home.
One You actually had to start a fire so you could
defrost my yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the reasons why sometimes it's handy to smoke. Because at least that way you've got a source of ignition and you've got something. People complain they're saying it's bad for your health. Well, I disagree. Smoking saved my life that day. I'm sure.
That's right. Smoking is an affirmation of life, is what it is.
Yeah. Although, of course, other people would say, well, obviously, if you're smoking, that makes you a closet homosexual because you like to put things in your mouth. And it's okay.
I would have never thought that. I smoked for 40 years. That thought never crossed my mind. So, there will be a therapist at your door tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure I've never once been smoking a cigarette and be like, you know what? I really wish this was cock. If it gets to that point, then I'm sure my wife will be concerned, as will I be. I'll be thoroughly surprised.
Or, if your wife comes in the room and you're stroking the cigarette butt in out of your mouth,
teasing it.
Or something. You're giving. Why won't it stay lit? It's wet all the time. I don't understand.
That's because I'm doing my job right. What? Never mind.
My cigarettes are very happy. Next week I'm going to introduce them to my crochet.
Yeah. What an ugly couple that would make. A crochet needle and a cigarette. That would look like one of those sadomasochistic relationships where there's a guy hanging up from the ceiling on nipple clamps, It just wouldn't work out well.
I don't know why I suddenly thought of David Carradine. I don't know why. But, was it? Yeah, David Carradine.
David Carradine's a legend.
So you want to call it a night then, since we've been talking about his urinating the last half hour.
Yeah, I mean, how much have we actually talked about literature? We haven't really done it.
You know, I have actually talked more about Bound than well, no, I talked more about crochet hooks than Bound, but yeah, we didn't even get into Ubers at all. But I think that anyone listening to tonight's podcast will kind of get a feeling that, wow, you know, these guys, we should read their books if for no other reason to find out what kind of psychological damage they're doing to their
I know,
children.
right? That should be our selling point. What we should do is like issue our podcast to the therapists around the world, and be like, yeah, diagnose this, bitch.
We need reviews. Yeah, right. Right. And we don't call them reviews, call them diagnoses, okay?
Yeah. Well, what's the prognosis, Doc?
Hopeless.
Yeah. God.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a fun night. It's been exciting. I'm going to go and spend the last couple of minutes at Roy Hudson's relic release.
Oh, brilliant, yeah. Well, Jay, it has been an absolute honour and a privilege speaking with you this evening, well, for me this morning. Hopefully we can continue our discussion about cell rack. Right, well, from Lee here at Dark Whispers and from
Jay Harding.
It's been nice talking with you guys this evening, and don't forget to check out our Facebook page. Thank you for listening.